Hey, everybody, it's Aldo Gandia, and welcome to Greg Gabriel Talks Bears. Greg, it is fun to talk Chicago Bears football after coming off a victory, and in fact, two straight wins. What's going on with these Chicago Bears?
Well, you know, when you look at it, and my experience tells me this too, the season is a marathon, it's not a sprint. Okay, and a lot of things happen during the season. They started off fast, 5-1, weren't playing good, but the record was still 5-1. Then you go through that ugly dry spell, and there's many people in the Chicago media that wanted to, and Chicago, talk radio also. They wanted to fire everybody. Okay, now they're winning. They got a shot at the playoffs. And just to use another team as an example, 3 weeks ago, the Pittsburgh Steelers were 4 weeks ago were riding on top of the NFL. There's people thought they may go 16-0. Right now they stink.
Hey, really?
And they're one of the worst teams. I don't care what the record says. They're one of the worst teams in the NFL right now.
Mm-hmm.
The record says different, and they're probably going to win their division.
Mm-hmm.
But the way they're playing like they're 28, 29, 30, 31 in the NFL. So, things can change. Do we have all the reasons why? No. The offensive line is playing better because there's been some continuity over the last month. Guys are learning to play with each other. It might not be the best guys going forward, but they're playing well. The run game is picked up. David Montgomery is 96 yards or 94 yards away from having a 1,000-yard season. 3 weeks ago, nobody would have thought that in a million years.
That's
Okay,
right.
so now he's got to average 48 yards or 47 yards a game for the next two games to get his first 1,000-yard season. Mitch has played pretty much flawless football. He had one bad throw
Mm-hmm.
Sunday, and as I said to you off the air a little while ago, I don't know if that was a bad thing. I think that was confidence in him, thinking I can make every throw. He should have thrown the ball right out of the end zone. Everybody was covered. There wasn't an open guy there. It was good defense on the part of their opponent.
Mm-hmm.
But it could have come back to haunt him. It didn't. The Bears forced, I think, a 3-and-out right after that,
Mm-hmm.
and got the ball back and then got the field goal. So, all told, good win. Things are going in the right direction. Excuse me. I think that, and I've said this the last 2 weeks. I'll continue to say it. I think Mitch is playing himself into an extension, and that he's going to be the quarterback at least over the next couple of years. I have no idea. I think the Bears are still in the driver's seat with that type of extension. I can see them trying to get a 2-year deal done or something, but it's going to depend on his agent and what he thinks is out there, with other teams, and he's going to be making calls to
Right.
find out. But I think it's something that's going to get done. I think that the front office is going to remain the same, and the coaching staff is going to remain the same.
Yeah, you've been saying that for weeks, even during this massive losing streak. You said those guys, unless something terrible happens, you said those guys were going to. When I say those guys, I'm referring to Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy. You
Right.
said all along that those guys have jobs for next season, and so this is solidifying their position with the Chicago Bears for 2021, isn't it?
Well, excuse me. Still got 2 games to go.
Mm-hmm.
Things got to play themselves out. But yeah, I think so. In saying that, though, Aldo, I had a phone conversation with a guy who coached in the league for a long time
Mm-hmm.
this morning, and he was telling me what he heard. Being that he is an ex-coach, he hears a lot of the rumors that are going that you're not going to see in the media, but are going on, amongst coaches
Right.
in the league and outside the league, and he gave me one for Chicago as far as who's going to be the head coach and who's going to be the GM next year. I said I can't see it happening. I've worked here too long. I know the people involved. I just don't see it happening.
Wow. So there are rumors already floating around that there could potentially be some changes, huh?
Yeah, but this funny. Then I did some more digging after I got off the phone, and it turns out that the agent for both the GM and the coach
Mm-hmm.
are one and the same person.
Okay.
So that tells me a little too.
Yeah. Well, and isn't it true that sometimes people will kind of plant ideas out there to start some scuttlebutt, and you use members of the media, so to speak, to
Oh yeah, I
yeah,
mean it's all part of the game,
yeah,
and agents are Jimmy Sexton, who is one of the super agents in the coaching world. At one time, he was basically the non-titled commissioner of the SEC because I think he had his clients had 7 of the 12 teams in the SEC. I mean, he controlled everything,
right.
because of that. And one of his clients was Steve Spurrier.
Mm-hmm.
Every year he'd get Spurrier free money, an extension, and a raise because he'd just plan it with some media people that so and so's interested in Spurrier, so and so's interested in Spurrier. It was all bullshit.
That's funny. Jimmy Sexton, haven't heard that name in a while. He's still around, 57 years old. As I'm looking, he's the co-head of football and head coaching as a sports agent for Creative Artist Agencies.
Right? No, hey, Jimmy is a big deal when it comes to coaching
Yeah,
agents.
he is. That CAA is probably the biggest agency in the world for movie stars, sports stars, and so forth. So, what a great name to bring up. All right, let's go over this game, pretty quickly. But
Yeah, we can go over it real quickly.
yeah,
Kick off the
there's
Bears
something that
won.
I want to hold on. There's something that I want to underline is, first of all, did you agree with the call by Matt Nagy? He won the coin flip. Did you agree to receive the ball, or would you have preferred to play the analytics, which say send the defense out there first?
I never argue with that. I think he had a feeling that the offense has been going good, and he thought, you know what, we can go down and score.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't score on the first possession, but he scored on the second possession.
That is correct, and it was a brilliant. What was it? 5-play, 58-yard drive, and I got some highlights here that we can talk about as we see it. Montgomery had this great 19-yard run, and then that was followed with a beautiful pass by Trubisky to A-Rob for 24 yards. He just dropped this right on the bucket, and then the touchdown pass to Darnell Mooney, an 8-yarder, follows, and it was just a great way to start the game. Again, this is the Bears' second possession. The defense held on a 3-and-out, and the Bears' offense went out there with the good field position that the defense gave them and scored that touchdown. Pretty impressive, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I mean they scored again in the third quarter when they needed to score, which they haven't been doing, and so I mean things are on the rise with the offense. This is the important thing, and I don't know if you know Larry Mayer. He's one of the PR people,
Absolutely,
and the chief writer for the Bears website. But Larry put out a thing over the last 4 games. The offense is averaging 31.5 points a game.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they're in with some of the top offenses in the league as far as scoring over the last month. So it's what have you done for me lately? And then, I get some stuff on Twitter. Well, they've only done it in the last couple of weeks. That doesn't make up for, what happened earlier in the year. Bullshit. That's what their job is to do, is to make it better.
Right.
And they've made it better. I'd love to be able to sit in on some of the offensive meetings and I mean, we see what they're doing. They're doing a lot of rollouts and those types of things, keeping Mitch on the move, not having them have to read the whole field, more of a half field read type thing. His percentage has gone up over the last 3 games. His completion percentage is 73.8%.
Not bad, huh?
That's pretty good. Over the last 4 games, it's 67%.
Okay.
Okay, so I mean, things that's really, he's playing the best football of his career. Now, I'm not going to say he's the absolute answer because we still have to see more. But at the same time, it's a drastic improvement over what we were seeing.
Right. Well, we'll talk a little bit more about Mitch when we go through all these highlights of the game itself. After the Bears took that 7-0 lead, the Vikings marched right down on an 8-play, 75-yard drive of their own that resulted in this Adam Thielen touchdown. Now, he has really hurt the Bears this season. This is his third touchdown against the Bears, and the Vikings really targeted the two young defensive backs. That's Shelley and Kindle Vildor. Both of them bit inside, and Thielen is just wide open at the end zone. Please go ahead.
There was a blown coverage there, and I think it was by Duke Shelley. When you see that replay, they both went like with the guy going to the outside instead of the one guy coming to the inside, and that was the Thielen who caught the touchdown pass. That's going to happen. You've got guys that haven't played that much. You know the opponents are going to go after them. You just got to hope that the regulars are ready to go. And if not this game against Jacksonville, then definitely against Green Bay.
All right. So after that, the Bears offense gets out to the field, and they have a short drive that results in a Cairo Santos field goal. We have to be like applauding this guy, building statues for Cairo Santos. This guy is red hot. He has scored 28 points over the last 2 weeks, and he's on par to break some Robbie Gold records. Your thoughts on Santos?
Well, hey, he's made what, 22, 23 in a row?
Yeah.
You can't do any better than that. When you don't have, he hasn't had a miss since I think week 3 of the season. You just don't want. He's going to have a miss sometime. You just don't want it to be in a key situation, but sooner or later it's going to happen.
Yeah. Then after the field goal, the defense holds Vikings a 5-play drive. They punt, and then the Bears offense gets out there and a beautiful 13-play drive, 76 yards for a touchdown. The big plays were a Darnell Mooney run for 16 yards and a Jimmy Graham pass reception for 16 yards. In fact, those were the first 2 plays of that drive. And it's just great to see this offense with such confidence.
Well, yeah, and they're right now they're getting everybody involved. If you look at the stat sheet, there's not 3 or 4 guys catching passes every week. It's 7 or 8. Excuse me. My asthma's acting up. It's not that they're relying on one person. Mitch can spread the ball around. I think his number one target is definitely A-Rob. But when you look at the stat sheet, there's 5 or 6 players on this team that have caught more than 40 passes. I think I haven't gone through all the stats of the other teams yet, but I think that might be the highest in the league. That many players with more than 40 receptions.
Okay. So after that touchdown drive, the Bears D gets a turnover on downs, and Bilal Nichols and Jenkins in the middle just did a great job of stopping a 4th down and 1. I got to tell you, I am just super impressed with the ascending play of Bilal Nichols. This is a middle round draft pick for Ryan Pace out of Delaware, Matt Nagy's old school. Tell me what your thoughts are on Bilal Nichols, because I think he is really starting to play better and better.
Oh, there are some tweets going on about him during the game on Sunday. He is playing better. He's played good since he's been here. But now he came from an FCS level school, and so got to get acclimated to playing with the big time. Right. It's a couple jumps in level of competition, not just one. I thought when he was at Delaware, he was not being used to the extent he should have been used as far as playing to his traits.
Okay.
He was playing as a 2-gap nose tackle and not an attacking 1-gap player where, he could use his athleticism and his burst to make plays. And so you didn't see him. Well, he easily was able to control double teams at that level. You still didn't see a huge number of plays, and part of that was just the design of the defense. Right. His job was to occupy people. Okay. So now he's getting up here, He's playing a different type of scheme now. He's really not. He's playing nose because he has to play nose
Mm-hmm.
because Eddie Golden, excuse me,
Mm-hmm.
because Eddie Golden's out,
Right.
and he's a natural five technique.
Mm-hmm.
But they can put him. They get Jenkins, put Jenkins in sometimes on the
Right.
nose. They
Right.
have Bilal outside. When they get it into the sub package, he's one of the interior pass rushers, especially now that Roy Robertson Harris is out. So
Mm-hmm.
Bilal's getting more play time in the pass rush situations, and
Mm-hmm.
he's making plays. I think he's got 4.5, 5 sacks on the season.
Yeah, well, he's got 4 sacks in his last 5 games, so he's really on a super hot streak, and that's great to see. Then, as the game continues, after the Bears defense holds, the Bears get a field goal to make it 20-7, and the Vikings come right back on a 12-play, 69-yard drive that stalls at the 6-yard line, and then Bailey comes out and knocks a field goal. So looks like Mike Zimmer did the right thing in not getting rid of Dan Bailey after he missed what was the 4th straight.
Yeah, but let's be fair. Every field goal he had, every attempt he had was a real short one in that game. He wasn't put into a pressure situation to having to make a 45 or 48-yard field goal. But I didn't mention anything going back. That 4th and 1 that Minnesota went for earlier, that was one of the dumbest calls I've seen Zimmer ever make going for that. That was a kick the ball away and let your defense hold the Bears offense.
Yeah.
Instead of, because if you don't make it, you're giving the Bears a short field, and that's exactly what they did.
Well, it's become a game of where analytics are having a big role in the decision making, and so now coaches are being told the chances are that on a 4th down and 1, you're going to make it 60-70% of the time. So go for it. And I'm surprised Zimmer, who's an old school coach, I'm surprised that he's abiding by any of these analytic calls.
No, I agree with you, and and obviously the play caller is going to be in his ear. Let's go for it. We can do it. But it was great play by the Bears defensive line there.
Mm-hmm, indeed. All right. So at the beginning of the 3rd quarter, now the Vikings are receiving because the Bears made that decision, and they go on an 8-play, 75-yard drive. So they're the ones that end up getting the final points of the first half and their first points of the second half. They end up getting 10, which is typically what teams are trying to accomplish when they defer the opening kickoff. It kind of backfired on the Bears here. The
I don't know if I agree with that. I mean, because the game's going to be played. That's the way that situation worked out. But I don't always look at it as it's a backfire type situation.
Okay. Well, but those are the analytics. That's why we've seen this trend towards, deferring when you win the opening coin flip. So be that as it may, the Bears do come back on their own 11-play drive, a 75-yard drive for a touchdown. And I got a highlight here. Let me find it. This is David Montgomery's. Let me get rid of this thing here. This is David Montgomery's touchdown run, and it is just a sterling example of how well the offensive line is playing. And you will see, no need to lower your audio. This doesn't have any audio there, Greg. You will see Darnell Mooney, number 11, he chops that defensive end, and then all of the linemen are pushing to the right, and the center and left guard, Sam Mustipher and Cody Whitehair, just open up another huge hole for David Montgomery, just like almost as big as the one that he had on that 80-yard run last week. It's just a beautiful thing. Let me play it again, Greg, and you can comment. You seen that, Greg?
Yeah, I'm seeing it now. It jumped in late, but
okay.
No, I said earlier, the offensive line as a whole is playing really well. Montgomery is getting huge holes.
Mm-hmm.
Some guy tweeted to me, well, he's not as good as advertised as, coming out of college. Well, what do you mean he's not as good as advertised? He was a 3rd-round pick. Mm-hmm. Okay, so, and number 2, a back is only as good as the line in front of him. And now the line is blocking for him. He's got something he can do. You don't have a line blocking for you, you aren't getting anything in the National Football League. Mm-hmm. So now that he is getting those holes, He's being more creative. He's getting yards after contact. He's showing how quick his feet are, and he's got that ability to find the opening seam and then cut back. I think he's a hell of a runner. I think he's one of the better runners in the league. He just didn't have that opportunity to show that for the first year and a half of his career.
Yeah, definitely. And what we're going to have, I think we've got some sound of Coach Nagy talking about Montgomery, but clearly he is in his own. He's a nominee for the the FedEx Best Rusher of the Week, and I hope he wins because he outplayed Dalvin Cook in my mind, and I know how much you love Dalvin Cook, and I do too.
Well, there's a difference between the two. Montgomery's a little bit more of a pounder. He doesn't have the flat out speed that Cook has.
Yeah.
Cook has got the ability, because of his burst, excuse me, and his long speed, to break a long one at any given time. Where Montgomery, he's more of he can nickel and dime you to death. And he can get you, he'll get you 15, 18, the 80 yarder last week. But that's more the exception than the rule. But he'll give you a bunch of these 8, 10, 12, 14-yard runs. And he'll get the yardage after contact, and he's a punishing runner.
Yeah, boy, I really, really love the way Cook plays. And then the knock on him coming out of college is that there were some off-the-field incidences and so forth, but apparently he's cleaned up his act. He seems to be a model citizen now. And Mike Zimmer usually has a really good effect on players who have had some troubles in the past. Cook is another example. I know when Zimmer was at Cincinnati as the defensive coordinator there, he tempered the aggression on some of those players, at least the aggression off the field. On the field, they played as tough as anybody.
Right. No, he's always been a solid coach. And he got a lot of that. Excuse me. He worked for Bill Parcells in Dallas, and he learned a lot from Bill. And Bill, I worked with Bill for 7 years. One of the best in the business, and great at really mentoring younger coaches and turning them into successful head coaches. And one of the best is Sean Payton. Sean Payton was struggling a little bit as a coach in the league. He goes to Dallas, works with Parcells, and then he gets the New Orleans job after that. And you've seen the results of that. He's just been outstanding as a head coach.
Indeed. All right. So then the Bears, after that drive, the Vikings and the Bears exchange field goals. And then when the Vikings get the ball back, they start on a 11-play, 75-yard drive that results in a touchdown. But the big play of that drive, in my mind, Greg, and let's see if you agree with me, was this penalty that was called on Kindle Vildor. They call it on, clearly, Thielen pushes off right there, but they call it on Vildor. Do you agree with me that was a bad call by the officials?
Well, you know what? That's a veteran receiver and a rookie corner. Who's getting the call?
Well, yeah, but it shouldn't be that way, Greg.
Well, shoulda, coulda, woulda. It is.
I hear you.
You know what? Bears won the game. You don't worry about it.
No,
the Bears lose the game. You worry about it.
Yeah, I think you gotta send a letter to the NFL and let them know.
They do that every week.
Oh, I know.
Coaches they send clips of particular plays that they thought was the wrong call. They send it into the league office. All those plays get reviewed, and the league gets back to them on each one.
Yeah. Well, do you think they should send a letter as part of the plays that they're going to contest with the NFL? Not contest, but point out. Do you think that play should be a part of it?
Probably, if they see it the way you saw it, yeah.
Okay. All right. So then on the next drive, the Bears keep moving downfield, and the big play to me was this A-Rob pass. Mitchell Trubisky just throws a beautiful pass. There's 6.5 minutes left in the game, and this pass by Mitch Trubisky is just big time. And of course, the yards after the catch that the Bears have been talking about for the last couple of weeks, that was huge by A-Rob. But again, I'm going to play this replay again. Greg, tell me what you see in Mitch's throw here. play action, perfect mechanics, right?
Well, he was wide open coming across the middle, got about 10, 11 yards after the catch, gets the first down. But they've been doing that the last 3 to 4 weeks on
Mm-hmm.
with the offense. They've been coming up with those plays. Excuse me. The third down percentage is a lot better than it had been.
Mm-hmm.
Mitch's accuracy is better. And like I said, he's spreading the ball around, so there's not one guy that they have to contain. There's, you got to worry about Mooney, you got to worry about A-Rob. Komet is come into the game over the last month. Graham's still there. Miller's there. So there's a bunch of different guys they can go to, and that makes it actually easier to make plays because you don't just have one specific go-to player.
Right. So on that drive, the bad part about it is it gets the Bears march down to the 6-yard line, and on a 3rd and goal, Mitch throws that interception. I have it right here. Take a look at it. What are your thoughts on this interception?
I think that's a play that he should have just thrown the ball away. That's his only bad throw I felt for the whole game. And as I said to you off the air, part of it was probably confidence on his part. He'd been hitting some tight window throws. The throw just wasn't there. Throw it out of the end zone, kick the field goal, get 3 points.
Mm-hmm. Well, and one of the things that I thought was wrong is everyone's running an all-go route, and there's no safety valve. There's nobody underneath that he can throw the ball to if he sees that everybody is covered. Here comes in slow motion. You see everyone is out. All this is open right here in the middle of the field, inside the 5-yard line. It's all open. There should be a crossing route run there.
Yeah, but that's just the design of the play. I mean, so...
Well, badly designed play then, right?
No, it is what it is. That's the design of the play. There's nobody in the design of that particular play that's running an underneath or a safety valve type route. There are plays like that.
Badly designed play, Greg.
I'm not going to criticize that. What if he completed the pass and got the touchdown? Are you going to say that?
Well, but he didn't.
I know he didn't.
I'm using your.
I know, but he should have thrown the ball away. The problem with the play is Mitch should have bit the bullet and thrown the ball out of the end zone. End of discussion. Or try to run it.
It's not the end of the discussion. The discussion can go further by having somebody run a pattern underneath, a crossing pattern.
There's going to be plays in the playbook that you're not going to agree with. And you know what? I'm not going to take the time to go through every play in the playbook and go say, oh, well, I think this should be this way. Because that's not my expertise, so I don't care.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying as a fanalist that it seems to me that there should be a safety valve as opposed to running 4 receivers on an all-go patterns straight to the end zone. There's no.
I'll add this, Aldo. Maybe there was supposed to be, and one of those receivers blew his route.
Could be. Okay. So we'll never know because it wasn't asked at the media. Nonetheless, the Bears defense comes out after the interception and they hold the Vikings on downs. The Bears then add a field goal to make it 33-27, and the game ends with the Bears holding and getting an interception to hold the game. This is Matt Nagy with his review immediately after the game, talking about offense, defense, and special teams.
Again, a game we're really proud of our offense to really click and play well, and really the pass game when we had to, the run game obviously getting that going. I thought Mitchell did a great job of commanding the offense and making smart decisions. David ran his tail off. The offensive line blocked. The tight ends, the wide receivers made big catches, and a credit to our coaching staff. So I love the way that went. And so that's that part. As far as defense, I thought that they made some big time stops at crucial situations in this game where if they don't make those, it could be a different outcome. They're fighters and they care a lot. And we had a couple guys out today, and I thought the young guys came in and played well. Those 2 4th and 1s that we had were huge stops. Credit to the coaching staff for getting those guys right there. And then, special teams wise, again, for Cairo to go 4 for 4, for CP to kind of, tough it out through a little bit of an injury. And just, field position wise, I thought was good. So, it's exciting for us right now. We know we have 2 more guaranteed for us, and we feel good about all that.
And then this is Mitch Trubisky immediately after the game being asked that where's his confidence with the offense compared to where his confidence was at the beginning of the season.
Our confidence is way up from earlier in the season, where it just seemed like we were a little unsure about what we wanted to do, who we wanted to be. We have more of an identity now. Starts with running the football and then the play action and movement game that comes off that, and just being efficient on first and second down, and being a balanced offense. So I feel like we have more of an identity now. Guys are buying into it. There's more passion and excitement at practice over the last few weeks. We feel like we keep getting better every single week. And when you keep getting better, and guys get more experience playing together. 11 is 1. I think that's when guys just really gain confidence, and then you're just able to go out there and play free, play loose, and play the way that we know we're capable of playing.
Greg, how much are you paying Mitch Trubisky next year? If his agent says, I want $20 million, you're going to pay him 20?
Well, your partner, Mike North, thinks you should get 25.
That's because Mike loves to spend money.
Especially when it's not his.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what? You're going to try to do something south of 20 and then go from there. But still, let's let this play out. He's still playing good. You got 2 more games. Let it play out. And it doesn't matter if they get into the playoffs, because part of that is what Arizona does. If Arizona wins 2 games, even if the Bears win the 2, they're not in. And then you can go back and blame that Detroit game for not being in the playoffs. But still, you got to let the situation play out. But I think it's heading in that direction. And, they're not going to be picking at the top of the round. I don't think it's a great quarterback class to begin with. I think they will draft a quarterback. I don't think they will draft a quarterback in the first round. And then go from there.
Now, I want to play this soundbite for you. And I listened to it. This was from Monday's press conference. This is after Nagy has seen the film and he sits down with reporters. And Mark Potash asks him, all this great stuff is going on with the offense. Why not earlier?
A lot of people are wondering, why did it take so long to get to this point with Mitch as far as working the offense to take advantage of his strengths? Do you yourself wonder if things might have been different if you had gone to this kind of tack earlier, or is that not really a fair point?
No, I think that for us, you go through these different situations throughout the course of the year, and you're in different places at that time. And so, I think right now you could say, here's an example, right? So Cole Kmet, when we drafted Cole Kmet, we knew when we drafted him what type of player this kid is going to be in his career. He's going to be really, really good at the tight end position. But sometimes what's hard for people to understand is it's like Nintendo, and you think you can just put these kids in for the first game they ever play or the first 3 games they ever play, and that they're going to have these numbers or they can play every snap, and it's hard to do that. And so over the course of the year, you get more and more trust as coaches with a guy like Cole, and Cole gets more and more trust with himself. Now that's just one example, but also for us is just some of the stuff we went through with the offensive line with the injuries, I think played a factor. Obviously, we made the quarterback switch, and so there were some things there. And I think right now the thing that we're trying to look at is we try not to look back at what happened, but just kind of where we're at right now. And we want to just keep building off of where we feel we're at. And we do feel like it's a good place with the identity of the offense.
Greg, did that frustrate you as much as it did me?
Well, number one, I only got about half of that because
Okay.
it kept breaking up. So I don't know everything he was saying. He was obviously referring to Cole Kmet a lot and how, as he's gained more confidence, the coach has gained more
I'll
confidence.
give you the synopsis.
Okay.
Blah, 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 blah. That's the synopsis.
Well, but you know what? That's what you get from coaches during the year. So why ask the question? Well, why wasn't it done earlier in the year? Because it wasn't. And what was being done earlier in the year wasn't working. So we went to something that did. And, you got to give some coaches, are blinded, and that they're driven to do what their system says they should do, and others play to the strengths of the players within the offense. And I think earlier in the year they were driven to, maybe be Kansas City or another, and they don't have the players to do that. Okay, but now they're playing to Mitch's strengths, and he's playing good football. Now, is that going to continue? I don't have the answer. We don't know. It looks like it may, but again, like I said 5 minutes ago, let's let this thing play out and then go from there.
Yeah, I just feel like Coach Nagy perhaps could have volunteered. Who knows if Mitch would have played this well? Perhaps him sitting and watching Nick Foles helped his development. Perhaps being on the sidelines rose up his aggressive and his desire to be the number one quarterback. Who can tell about these things? There's so many different factors.
Well,
bringing up Old Komet, bringing up this, bringing up that. It took him a minute and 15 seconds to say the most important thing that he said is, we prefer not to look back on things like that. He should have just answered that and asked next question.
Right, but he didn't. So again, I don't put a lot of stock into that stuff. I'll say this: they made a trade for Foles. I think they wanted to see what Foles could do. Okay, and a lot of pressure was put on Mitch, and Mitch was put into a situation where he wasn't playing to his strong suits. We all said it. He just was not processing very quickly. And he was doing a lot of stuff, drop back, where he had to read the whole field. It's not his game. Since he's come back in as a starting quarterback, that's completely changed.
Yeah.
And you're seeing the results. I mean, his completion percentage, like I said, over the last 3 games is up 72, 73%. Last 4 games, almost 68%. That's the best he's done since he's been in the pros.
Yeah, pretty damn good.
And he's not turning the ball over.
Yeah, I mean, not with the regularity that he had before. That's for sure. He's had the fumble against the Lions was costly, and fortunately, this interception.
I'm not putting that one on him. That was a hell of a defensive play.
Yeah, it was.
If that was the Bears defense out there, and it was Matt Stafford, you're not saying that was a bad play by Matt Stafford. You're saying it was a great play by Khalil Mack. Or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I think when a play happens, there's 22 different reasons why there's success or failure on a play, because there's 22 players on the football field.
Right. There's no question. A lot of times, on a running play, you could have 4 out of the 5 offensive linemen doing a great job, and one guy has a poor block, and it causes the play to get stuffed up. Now you're seeing, these guys are playing with each other. They're getting used to playing with each other. They're playing more in unison, and you're seeing the result now with the run game. The run game is like 1,000% better than it was earlier in the year. There was no run game earlier in the year.
Yeah. Well, and that leads to Matt Nagy being asked about the offensive line. And this is what he volunteered about why the offensive line is playing so much better now.
We had a feeling coming out of the bye that health-wise and then position-wise, putting these guys in these spots was going to be what's best for this offense, not just in the run game, but in the pass game as well. And I think that Juan Castillo with these guys and Donovan Raiola, just working to their strengths and then keeping a consistency with schematics of what we want to do has been really good.
You're going to have to give me a synopsis again, because I got about 5 words out of that.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Basically, what he is saying is that after they came out of the bye, they had evaluated where was the best position for each of those guys, and that's the lineup that they came up with. So my question for you, though, is, do you put any stock? Olin Kreutz was asked by Brad Biggs, your good buddy, in his 10 Thoughts column, to comment on the offensive line, and Olin Kreutz said, he had a lot of compliments for everybody. So I want to make sure I say that. But he also did point out that over the last couple of games, they've played backups the Vikings and the Texans had basically backups for most of the defensive line. J.J. Watt, obviously, of course, played for the Texans, but Olin's point is that they haven't faced quality defensive linemen until the Packers game. What's your thought on that?
Well, my thought is this: you only can play who you can play. You have no control over who the other team puts on the field.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so so you line up, you make your game plan. Now going into a game who you think's going to be playing for the opponents,
Right.
and you game plan accordingly, and go from there. But there's nothing wrong with what Olin said. There's a lot of truth to it. But at the same time, these guys they got to execute against the players they are playing against, and that's what they've done.
Okay. We've got some questions here. Our good buddy Brummy Bear he's asking, what the heck is going on with Eddie Jackson and our secondary execution in general? He says, all season I feel like they have underperformed when you consider their talent. Is it all down to Chuck Pagano, or is there something else going on here with the secondary? Your thoughts, having looked at the secondary this season?
It's a good question. Part of it, and you look at the safety position, this is the third year, and Eddie's had a different guy next to him in each of the last 3 years. He had Amos, then last year he had Clinton Dix. This year he's got Gibson. Part of playing good is knowing what the other guys, your guys, do. You've been playing you played with a rookie at the right corner, who's made some mistakes, but overall his play's been pretty good. Now he's hurt, and you're playing with actually the starting nickel and the starting corner are out last week. So you had two new guys, one of which was a rookie, one's a second-year guy.
Mm-hmm.
Duke Shelley's undersized. And so he's gonna, he's a lean guy and he's not very tall. So he's going to become a matchup problem against a lot of the people that he plays against. So and part of it is the scheme isn't the same as it was
With Vic.
under Vic.
Right.
So it's combination of all the above, and a lot of times the defensive line playing strong helps the defensive secondary.
Absolutely. Yeah, that 2018 season, Fangio's final year here with the Bears, Fangio was doing some exotic things in the defensive backfield that a lot of teams were like going, whoa, I haven't seen this before. Or, and I remember Fangio saying, because we've had some continuity with our defensive backs, they're getting to know what we want to do, and I'm able to throw some new things at them, and they're performing it well. And I think, as you said, the revolving door at that opposite safety position with Eddie Jackson is just not doing him any favors, man.
No, and don't forget, he's had a couple of big plays that got called back by penalties.
Yes, exactly.
So now that changes the narrative a little bit if those plays are there and there's no penalty.
Without a doubt. By the way, Adrian Amos has more interceptions in the past 2 seasons with the Green Bay Packers than Eddie Jackson has with the Chicago Bears these past 2 seasons. What do you make of that?
Nothing. He's playing in a different scheme, and he's playing good within that scheme.
I knew you were going to say that. Brummy has a follow-up. Basically what he is saying, because we did talk about that pass interference called on Kindle Vildor. Brummy is asking, do you think that today's game has gone too soft, especially with pass interference calls and so forth? I mean, when you played football, you came from an era where if somebody got knocked out, they wouldn't call timeout. They would just drag the person off the field, right?
Right. And you had a lot of helmet to helmet hits. All those, the NFL films, all those highlights.
Mm-hmm.
Go back and look at them. They're all legal hits.
Yeah.
Every single one of them is an
Mm-hmm.
illegal hit in today's game. That's why they don't show them anymore.
Yep.
But the game's different. The league wants teams to score points.
Mm-hmm.
So they work against the defense. and it makes it tough. You know, you got the 5 yard rule where you only can have contact within 5 yards. They generally give you a little bit more time. You can piss and moan about some of the calls. All told, it hadn't been that bad.
Yeah.
But, you know, in the case with Vildor, you know, I think it was a situation where it was a rookie going against a vet, and the vet's going to get the call. It's the same with the NBA. You know how that works in the NBA.
Oh, yeah. I've watched every one of Michael Jordan's games, and he got a lot of calls because he was Michael Jordan.
That's right. That's right.
All right. Swanky has a question. I know what your answer is, but he wants to know, who do you think is going to be the Bears starting quarterback in 2021? Let me just alter that a little bit. Who do you think, who would you like to see at quarterback in 2021?
Oh, I can't answer who I like. It's who I think. And,
Okay. All right.
and who I think right now,
Mm-hmm.
based on today's roster, Mitch Trubisky.
There you go.
Okay, now, and my qualifying that is, if he stinks the joint out the next 2 weeks, different story. Then I don't know who it is. He's probably not on the roster yet. But I personally think that, you know, Nick Foles has an out in his contract.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to exercise that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, because he's a competitor and he's going to want to play. I could be 100% wrong on that. And that's one of the reasons why I think they're going to, you know, go out and draft a quarterback, just not in the first round.
Let me, I know you haven't studied your in-depth scouting of the upcoming draft class, but I know you've seen a couple of Notre Dame games. What are your thoughts on Ian Book? Do you think he's worth a day 3 investment so that he could be somebody that you develop and maybe have a quality backup?
I think I got to tell you what, I every time I watch Ian Book, I like him more than I did the time before.
Me too.
He's a guy that has gained a lot of. He's got as much experience as any quarterback in this draft. Now, he doesn't have a big arm. He's got an average arm, but he's mobile. He can make plays and extend plays. Got a pretty quick delivery, but he's not tall. He's only 6 feet tall. Maybe he's 6 foot a quarter inch. I'll tell you the guy, and there are going to be people screaming and hollering at me at this when I make this. The guy that I compare him to as a college player, Drew Brees.
Ian Book and Drew Brees?
Yeah, Drew Brees. You know, Drew Brees was at Purdue.
Right.
Right, okay. And size-wise, Ian's a little bit bigger.
Mm-hmm.
And I went down to Purdue to specifically watch Drew in practice.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a very windy day. I remember this like it was yesterday because I had, you know, and I had it in my report. Very windy day.
Mm-hmm.
He could not complete a 15-yard out route. The ball was short every single time he threw it because of the wind. Right away, I said, and I had it in my report, he doesn't have the arm strength to play in a lot of places. Hell of a quarterback, but he doesn't have the arm strength to play in a lot of places. He's not going to survive in a place like Chicago, New York, or Buffalo because of the conditions that you get to play in. He's going to be better off with a dome team or a California team. So where's he go? He goes to the Chargers first, and then he goes to the Saints. So, you know, plays half his games in a dome. Now, his arm's stronger. One thing that I've learned in all the years I've been doing this is arm strength improves when they get to the NFL. They're doing stuff that they don't do in college to improve that arm strength, and the zip is better. You look at Peyton Manning when he was coming out, and then Peyton Manning when he was in the league for 5 years, big difference.
Wow.
Tom Brady, huge difference. And you know, Drew Brees is another one. He can drive the ball a lot better than he could when he was, like I said, at Purdue. He couldn't complete 14, 15-yard out in the wind. He was short every single time because he couldn't throw. He didn't have a tight enough ball, and he couldn't throw into the wind. He just struggled with it. He didn't have the arm strength. But I think, you know, Ian Book is incredibly smart, and he's a winner. Some bitch has only lost like 3 games in his whole career.
Exactly.
You know, so he's not a first-round pick, and he's going to be a guy that because of the traits, his competitive nature, you're going to draft him with the thought of being a quality backup, but he can win games for you if he has to play. Basically, like he's been in college. And I think his arm will get better when he gets into college or when he gets into the pro game. And he's, some team's going to be happy they got him. Don't forget, the height thing, people are taking smaller quarterbacks now. And they're playing pretty good. So, play to his strengths. And there's a lot of things he can do well.
Well, I'm with you. I love your evaluation on Book, and I thought Danny Shimon and Neil Stopchinski do a show here called Draft on Tap, and they at the beginning of the college football season they did their initial evaluation on players and potentially what round they could go. And I noticed that Ian Book wasn't on it, and so I asked them about it, and they kind of shrugged their shoulders. Ian Book. But now, when I last talked to them, all of a sudden now they're saying, yeah, he definitely deserves day 3 consideration. So. Who knows?
I wouldn't be shocked if he went day 2, the third round.
Wow.
I'm not going to say it's going to happen.
Sure.
I said it wouldn't shock me.
Sure.
If it happened. Every team evaluates these guys differently.
Mm-hmm.
A guy could be a second rounder for one team and a fifth rounder for another team.
Mm-hmm.
It's what are they looking for, trait-wise at the position. But I think when he gets into the interview process and the private workout process, he's going to blow some coaches' minds, and they're going to fall in love with him because of that.
There you go.
Because he's very, very smart, and he understands things.
Yeah. I love the kid's will to win. That stands for a lot in my book.
Hey, Aldo, there's one thing I got to bring up.
Sure.
And there was a tweet that I really took offense to on Sunday by a Tribune writer. I'm not going to mention his name, but he goes, well, next up is the Bears go to Gimme Land to play Jacksonville. And so I sent back a tweet. I go, there's no such thing as a gimme in the National Football League. He sends back a tweet to me and he says, the last 13 opponents Jacksonville faced would argue with you. So then the Jets beat the Rams like an hour later. And I sent him back and I go, you think the Rams thought the Jets were a gimme? And then Olin last night, he tweeted out, there's no sure victory in the National Football League.
Mm-hmm.
These guys are professionals. Who would have thought the Cincinnati Bengals were going to beat the Pittsburgh Steelers last night? And they didn't beat them a little. They kicked the shit out of them.
Right.
Okay. And go back. Who would have thought the hapless Jets would beat the Rams out in L.A. besides nobody? Okay. So I don't want to hear a guy say, "Oh, you know what? You're setting yourself up to write the we got to fire everybody story because it was gimme land."
Yeah. I love that you made that point. And in fact, that kind of leads me to a soundbite. I was going to skip it, but it leads me to a soundbite. Matt Nagy was asked, how do you ensure that the Bears players don't overlook this Jacksonville game and start thinking about
because they stunk earlier in the year.
Yeah, exactly.
They lost 6 games in a row.
That's exactly what he said. And then he added to that saying, we also will depend on our leaders. And the follow-up question was, well, who are some of these leaders? And this was his response.
There's so many of them. And you guys know that I go a lot to those leaders, but what's pretty cool is also seeing, when I say the leaders, it's the guys, the last several years, whether it's Allen Robinson, whether it's Danny Trevathan, whether it's Eddie Jackson, Khalil Mack, Akeem Hicks, the guys on offense, with Cody and Leno and Mitchell. And there's a lot of them, but the one that's really starting to jump up to that forefront on offense right now in his second year is David Montgomery. And it's neat for me to be able to have discussions with him and just see his growth as a leader. He's naturally an introverted person. That's just who he is. He also has a funny side to him. But what's happening now is he's with the way he's playing, his leadership skills are coming out through his actions, and guys are seeing that. And it's a pretty cool growth for him.
I think that is
I gotta say, first of all, that was breaking up again, so I didn't get it. So he goes, the guy who's come to the forefront, and then I lost the rest. So I have a
David
feeling.
Montgomery.
Montgomery. Okay,
Yeah.
I thought that he was going to say Mitch on that, but Montgomery, huh? Okay,
Yeah,
I can
and
see
his
that.
long list of players, he had Mitch in there, Akeem Hicks, Khalil Mack, and so forth. And then he said it's Montgomery that has lately come forward as a leader, primarily with his actions on the football field, but he's also feeling more comfortable and joking around and so forth. And so the players are really gravitating towards him. There's one thing about this team is that it does seem like they have a locker room full of guys who are good guys, good character guys, good guys who can lead. And I've always believed that every player on a team should have leadership responsibilities. When you as a scout, when you led the Chicago Bears scouting department, what did you look for in potential NFL players from a leadership standpoint? What kind of questions did you ask their coaches and stuff like that?
Well, that was it. You when you spend time with the coaching staff, the college coaching staff,
Mm-hmm.
and you're going over each individual player that's a prospect,
Mm-hmm.
and you're talking about their background, but you want to know their leadership qualities and what they do within their own team to be leaders. Are they example leaders or are they vocal leaders? And there's like, Olin. Olin's the best leader I've ever been around. Olin was both a vocal and an example leader, but there's other guys that just by their hard work, they're natural leaders. Matt Forte, a guy like that. Brian Urlacher, more on later in his career, he became more of a vocal leader, but earlier in his career, he led by example. You follow what I'm saying on that?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely follow that. And there you are. Let me correct that. All right. Yeah, Olin struck me as a terrorizing leader. I mean, you've got a great story of an interaction that you had with Olin Kreutz in the locker room. Do you recall sharing that with me? And do you want to recall
The one when he was trying to chase me out of the weight room?
that one? Sure.
Well, but he'd do that to me almost every day. I'd go down, I'd go down. I always went down to work out around 4:45, 5 o'clock
Mm-hmm.
to lift. And players are mostly gone, but Olin's the last guy to leave. So I'd go in there, I'd go in the locker room, change my clothes, get out, start lifting. Then I'd hear, "Get the fuck out of my weight room." And and I'd turn around and I'd give Olin the finger and laugh at him. But
that is great. I mean, he just loved to intimidate people, didn't he?
oh yeah, no, but great leader. Yeah, but he was example. I remember a story about Olin was, we had a guy who was like and I forgot the title that he had, but he was like the go-between between the players and the coaching staff and the front office. And he also had to work with, the rookie program that the league gives you to do during the off-season program and stuff.
Like a liaison?
Yeah, type of thing. But the guy we had, it was his first year. So he doesn't know the veterans that well. And Lovey had hired this guy. And so he goes up and he's, got the rookie school going on with the rookies. And he goes up to Olin and he goes, "Will you come in and talk to these guys?" Olin just looked at him. He goes, "Are you fucking crazy?" He goes, I don't talk to rookies. He goes, "I'll talk to those guys when they make the team. And not until. Now get the hell out of here and leave me alone."
So let me ask you this. What would Olin Kreutz say to the Washington football quarterback, Dwayne Haskins, who was photographed in a strip club the night before a game and not wearing a mask?
Okay, I knew about the photo, and he didn't have a mask. I did not know until you just said it. The night before a game.
Yeah, the night before a game, and he's clearly getting a lap dance there or something. I don't know what's going on.
Well, number one, part of that you got to put on the coaching staff, because you're supposed to have the players in lockdown. That's why I specifically asked you, was that the night before a game, because they're supposed to be at the hotel and there's nobody coming in and there's nobody going out. That's all part of NFL protocol.
Yeah, I'll have to confirm that, but
Because I've had friends come into town as working for away teams. I cannot go down and see these guys. I can't get anywhere near them. And if they broke the protocol and met me for a drink, they wouldn't be able to go to the game the next day.
There you go. Yeah, to me, it could be the what's the expression? The death knell of Dwayne Haskins' quarterbacking career. I mean, how are you going to trust a guy like that? Well,
again, it depends. Was it the day before the game or not? Don't forget the Raiders had some of those similar type issues earlier in the year.
Oh, yes.
And knowing Ron Rivera the way I do, that's why I question, again, I don't want to keep repeating it, if it was really the day before the game, only because of what the rules are. But, it's going to cost you money. It's real simple. And it's going to cost you money both internally and externally. And that is, the league's getting hit with a fine. Mm-hmm. You may never hear what the fine is, but it's going to happen. Sooner or later, these things, excuse me, they begin to mount. And then you start to lose trust, because there's a maturity level that you're expecting, especially from a quarterback.
Right, absolutely.
And if he doesn't meet those standards, then it's time to move on.
Indeed. Now,
and don't forget, Ron Rivera didn't draft this guy. That was the last group.
Yeah, exactly. And I got a feeling Ron, Ron as well as anybody, I guess, Ron is not going to stand for that very long.
No, he won't. But at the same time, there was a bunch of stories about Haskins before the draft that came out. And part of it was, this guy never learned how to grow up. He was always babied and protected by his dad.
Yeah.
He never really on his own.
Yeah.
And his dad was very overbearing. And that's part of the problem right there.
Yeah, indeed. Hey, I want to get your opinion on something before I let you out of here. In last night's Steelers-Bengals game, there was an incident where Juju Smith-Schuster danced on the Bengals logo. Schuster, the wide receiver for the Steelers, and then Von Bell from Ohio State just blast him into Kingdom Come. Here you'll see again the hit coming at you one more time. Let's see it here. Bam! There goes.
I didn't see it, but let me.
Juju Smith-Schuster just gets whacked right here. One more time. Bam! You're gonna dance on my Bengals logo.
Well, that's payback time. And I loved Juju Smith when he was coming out. Mm-hmm. And he's played. I had him at one time the number one receiver in that draft.
Yeah, right.
And then I dropped him down a little bit because he just didn't run as good as you wanted the top guy to go. Mm-hmm. But my original thought was right. And a lot of times I'll always go back to that. Because you see something, you go, wait a minute. No, I had him when I was doing all the film. I had him number one. So don't change, because usually your original thought is the right thought.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. And one of the reasons I wanted you to see that is so that I could ask you this question. Isn't that the way Javon Wims should have handled it instead of fighting with that guy? Now, Javon obviously can't hit anybody because he's a wide receiver, but on special teams, or you figure out a way, you talk to a teammate on the sideline, you figure out a way to, just get that.
Yeah, you find he did it totally wrong, and it cost him money, and it cost him trust from the coaching staff. Mm-hmm. Because before that, he was getting playtime.
Yep.
Since then, how many plays has he played? Not too many.
Not too many.
So when you lose the trust of your coaches, it's all over for you.
Yeah. And what is going on with Riley Ridley? He still can't get on the field. He's actually not being activated in favor of Javon Wims. That's got to be a huge slap in the face to Ridley. What do you think is going on there, Greg?
Well, they're only going to dress 5 receivers,
Right?
and he's the 6th guy.
And Wims is chosen over Ridley, perhaps because of his special teams prowess.
Absolutely. He's bigger. Neither one is what I'd call a speedster, but Wims is bigger, and he's paid for his sin earlier in the year. I still don't, he still doesn't get much play time, but he does get some special teams time. Ridley's just got to get better. You can't say, "Oh, Ridley sucks," because when Ridley's played, he's made some plays.
Yeah,
he's just not as good as the other guys.
Yeah.
Who would have thought that when they drafted Darnell Mooney this year that he was going to make the impact that he has made?
Right.
So that he pushed himself up to number 2, and that slid everybody else down a slot.
Yeah. In Nagy's response to that one question about why, didn't you learn this about Trubisky earlier? And he brings up Cole Kmet. Cole Kmet is a perfect example. It takes a while, and it takes a while to earn trust. Well, Darnell Mooney earned the trust pretty quickly. He has seen many more snaps than Anthony Miller this season. They've entrusted him with a good part of the playbook. They're running him on jet sweeps. He's running the wide receiver tree, not every play to perfection, but he's running it pretty well. So
he's the number 2 receiver on the team right now.
Yeah.
He's the starter. And then Miller is, when they go to 3 wideouts, Miller's the 3rd wideout. But they're playing with a lot more 2 wide receivers, 2 tight ends.
Yeah.
And they have been, and that's typical of this offense.
It's a great point. And the one thing about Ridley, I remember when he came out, a lot of people were applauding the fact that he was a very good route runner and, worked out with his brother and his brother shared.
Yeah, but he doesn't have his brother's juice.
Yeah.
That's the biggest detriment. His brother has blinding speed and this one's got average speed.
Okay. Well, before I let you go, I want your thoughts on this upcoming Jaguars-Bears game. Give me a prediction. Who do you think is going to win this game?
Well, I got to go the way I've gone the last 3 weeks because I've won that way. I'll pick Jacksonville, even though I don't think it. But are we doing a preview show or a preview show on Friday? Or
do you want to? I wouldn't mind at all.
We can do a short preview show, but because I want to see how practice goes. Obviously, we're not going to do it on Thursday. We could do something on Friday, but it's right now. I don't think there's a lot of people that thought the Bears were going to go into Minnesota and beat them. Okay, and reality, and they did. Okay, so now it's like we're seeing a different team. Their sense of purpose is a lot different than it was a month ago. And that's got to continue for 2 more games. Who knows if Green Bay is going to be playing their A team in the last game. I think some of that has to do with what goes on with Seattle and stuff because they want to have one of the top 2 seeds. They haven't locked that up. And they specifically like the top seed. So until that gets figured out, we're going to have a better answer to that come Sunday night. Then we'll know if we're going to see the varsity Green Bay Packers or the junior varsity Green Bay Packers in the last game.
Yeah. By the way, Friday is Christmas Day, isn't it?
Oh, that's right. Okay, Friday. So Christmas Eve is Thursday.
Correct.
Yeah, we can do.
You want to do Saturday?
Yeah, I can do it Saturday.
All right. Well, we're going to be back here on Saturday. Greg Gabriel and myself will do a preview of the Jacksonville game, and also to let you know that Buffon 55 is going to do a preview as well. They have a guest, somebody who covers the Jaguars, so they'll do their regular segments where they do a Q&A session with a reporter who covers the Jaguars. Then John does his B55 segment, and then the final segment is John, Alyssa, and myself talking Bears. That's Alyssa Barbieri. I always screw up her name. I don't know why. And so we'll cover that. And then Dan and Aldo, Bare Their Souls. We're going to tape that late tonight, and that'll be on your podcast stream later. But make sure you hit the like button if you're watching on YouTube. And if you hit that little bell, every time we have a show scheduled here on our YouTube channel, you will get a notification letting you know that we are on the air. Greg, thank you very much. I know you're playing hurt. You just came off of therapy, and your therapist really kicked your ass today, right?
He kicks my ass all the time. I told him, I said, if I didn't like you, I would have hit you a long time ago.
Which is why I'm glad we do this show virtually, because you would have knocked me out a couple times. Greg, thanks very much. We'll see you on Saturday.
Okay, talk to you later. Bye-bye.